Tech Reimagined. Redefining the relationship between people and technology. Brought to you by Endava. This is Tech Reimagined.
It's almost a year to the day since we launched Tech Reimagined, and it's been an adventure to be your host. I'm Bradley Howard, and over the last 34 episodes, we've had some great guests on the show who've discussed how technology has changed our lives over the past 2 decades and the impact that it's likely to have on the future. We've reimagined some amazing topics, from shopping experiences, healthcare, and the future of sports to how we work, the role of AI, that's artificial intelligence, and how we pay for goods and services. Today, I want to share some of my favourite bits, topics, and predictions. Now, we're going to ban the word interesting in any of the links, otherwise it's too easy to overuse that. So let's dive right in. First off, I really admired Tony Whitehorn's approach in the very first podcast to leadership and the attitude that he encouraged everyone in Hyundai to have. And I'll admit that I've used this phrase several times before.
Okay, one thing that I've already said about being flexible in work, that's a key thing. But the other thing is this, is that as you go in your career, always remember this: nobody works for you. Now that's an unusual one coming from someone from the C-suite, but I've always tried to hold on to that mantra. No one works for you. When I was at my previous company, I was used to say to people, you don't work for me, we all work for Hyundai. We just have slightly different jobs. The minute that you put that on the table is the minute the agenda changes, because therefore everybody is trying to do best for the company. Not try and curry favour with me, that's irrelevant. I would therefore say on that basis, whenever we would have any meetings, it was almost an agnostic view of people's position, because we're all trying to do best for the company. And that is a very good ethos to try and cultivate.
It's fascinating that when we recorded this a year ago, in that time the electric vehicles market has grown so much. Tesla stock is about 5 times more valuable now than when we recorded the podcast, and Jaguar Land Rover and Ford have both announced they're going to be all electric by 2025 and 26. I remember the topic coming up a few times during various episodes. Tony helped us see that when considering electric vehicles, we need to look at the whole production line, not just the usage once we start driving it as a consumer.
So I'm going to be a bit provocative here, because what's happened is that the world has jumped on the EV bandwagon. And if you look at from well to wheel, which is the whole production cycle of an EV vehicle, if you compared an EV vehicle to the exact same diesel vehicle, the EV vehicle would have to have driven 60,000 miles before it comes exactly the same level as CO2 as the diesel vehicle, because in the production of an EV vehicle, the level of CO2 is enormous.
Towards the end of the series, Endava's very own chief executive, John Cottrell, also spoke about the exciting world of autonomous electric vehicles. And he specifically focused on the knock-on effects that it will have to other industries.
Yeah, almost certainly one of those areas where the long-term impact is going to be much deeper than we imagine at the moment. I think, so for me, the technology that I get excited about is autonomous vehicles. You know, I think you can see the stepping stones for that. Things like Uber and drone deliveries and so on will slowly build momentum. But then the impact of truly autonomous vehicles is going to blow those changes out of the water. You can imagine we only need to build 20% of the cars that we've had before, because they don't need to park up. The driving professions are going to change. Distribution and the way in which things are distributed will be completely changed. There'll be new monetization models. Electric, as opposed to internal combustion, becomes truly affordable, and so on. So now that's probably a 20 or 30 year cycle to get there. But when you think of the depth of change that's going to drive across society, I think it's one of those big ones that's going to come through.
And now for our final highlight on cars with our own VP of Strategy Acceleration, Jeremy Mays, who made an on-air confession to having just bought a Tesla. Also on the show was Thomas from Mondelez, and this sparked a little banter from Thomas between all of us.
I'm also a big Tesla fan. I picked up a Model 3 earlier this year, and I'm still in love with it. I think that they've rethought a lot of parts of the driver experience, I think, in very positive ways.
And can I ask you a question on this?
Sure.
On the Tesla experience, there was some news in the UK where people were saying one of the things which is they don't know whether it's good or bad is they're getting overnight updates to the car that fundamentally change the way the car behave. Now, on one hand, it's brilliant because you don't have to go to the dealer anymore for the servicing and stuff like that. On the other hand, it was like bordering the unexpected change of behavior of a product that I bought earlier. Where do you sit on that as a Tesla kind of user and owner?
I think that's an excellent question. I'll tell you that I think my experience, and I think, I've sort of become part of an online Tesla community. I think it's generally the experience is very positive. I think people look at it like, I don't know, when you get excited about an update, maybe for iOS or Android or something that brings you new features and new capabilities. A lot of times they're really great. I do think there is, I think Tesla tends to live fast and take chances sometimes, which might be a little terrifying when we're talking about the safety of passengers in a car. I think that it's a different experience.
I think we could talk about your Tesla all day now. Back to March 2020, and we had to shift to a 100% remote working environment. Being equipped for working virtually, all of our staff were able to remain fully connected and our infrastructure suffered no issues. We recorded this next highlight at the start of the first lockdown, so it's interesting to be hearing about flexible working 10 to 12 months later. Now, I had caught COVID a week before, and so we asked Seth, a colleague of ours, to host the show. Seth starts with the first question to Peter Newhouse from Unilever at that time.
Peter, you have any ideas on that? The split between offices and remote work, given what we're going through right now?
Yeah, I very much agree with what Justin said. I think, a lot of these things are the acceleration of trends that we've already embarked upon. I don't think there's going to necessarily be anything that suddenly is totally new, but certainly acceleration of this trend to work from home in the first place. So those companies that have been more familiar with that approach are going to adopt that approach even more vigorously than before and make a success of it. I think those companies who haven't done much of that in the past for whatever reason are going to have to adjust quite quickly. But there'll always be businesses and activities that won't really work like that. So we're going to have a mixture of things as we always have.
Yeah, one of the things we've seen a huge uptick in, obviously, is collaboration tooling. And, the stuff that we use internally, the stuff that the rest of the world is using, it's all centered on connecting individuals as closely as possible. But there is something about that dynamic of being in a room with people and, being able to see them and gauge their reaction and see body language and things like that just can't really be replaced over remote tools.
Having to rely on technology to step in where human interactions used to be isn't always easy. However, it doesn't mean that we can't find ways to use technology and creative thinking to drive innovation, like we did with Thomas Beechin from Mondelez when he told us what his dream job was and clearly still is.
So the interesting piece is, and I'll tell you in a sec, but that's still my dream job. Okay, so I wanted to be, and I still want to be, a Lego inventor. Fundamentally looking at a lot of different, components and finding very, very innovative way to assemble together to something that wasn't done before. It's what I wanted to do. I was doing it when I was 5, 6, 7. I remember taking photos of the models and sending them to Lego. And by the way, I still haven't replied. So the CRM system's not that great there, but really, really... that's what I wanted to do, and I think what I've ended up doing is try to replicate this in the corporate world. So what I do is I look at components, and those components are pieces of technologies, they talents, and then all of the things that are available in the corporate world, and try to bring them together to invent something new. But that's still my dream job. So Lego, if you're listening, I'm on giveusajob.betchen. At any time, I am listening.
There was also that awkward time that Andrew Cronin from FanHub Media was talking about his career in the sports industry, and how he's offered me a job a few times along the way.
Before I started in the sports industry, I was actually working for myself. Growing up the son of a farmer, I'd always sort of had that instilled as me as being a master of my own destiny, my own boss type thing. So that was always eating at me in the back of my mind, and it was always something that I aspired to do and what I saw myself doing in the long term. So as it eventuated, I was working for the WW in Australia. I was in the Sydney office and they were looking to move their Asian activities up to Singapore. I was looking to return to Melbourne. So that presented an opportunity for me to break out by myself, and it was the best thing that I've ever done.
Other than working with me?
That's true. You know, despite the many job offers that are given to you over the years, Bradley, it's great to see you remain loyal to Endava. I'm sure part of that factor is the offer of working for me for free is not that attractive.
We had the chance to talk about emerging technologies, trends, and even make a few predictions during most of our episodes. While discussing automation and human and machine as a market trend, Paul Kay from Jupiter Asset Management shared what he considers to be a technology that truly delivers tangible value in the investment management industry. And it might not be what you think.
I would kind of say cloud. And I've been saying that for a couple of years now. It might sound quite simplistic, but if I think of, let's say the three of us, if we started a business tomorrow, there's no way we're going to go and lease some space in a data center, buy some servers, rack them, configure them, etc. We're just going to go provision services. And then if I look at Zoom, right? If you kind of think about Zoom from the standpoint of the company itself, overnight the demand for their product and service, skyrocketed, and they're able to scale their business because they're in the cloud. And then if you look at it in terms of people adopting it, so our company, maybe Thomas's company, but other companies, we don't have to deploy that into our data center on premise, right? We can just stand it up immediately, very, very little time to do so. Maybe a little bit of complexity if you want to integrate it into your own platform, maybe with Microsoft AD, but basically you're up and running. So I think it's cloud.
I'm happy to say that we've tackled more than just technology on our podcast, having the opportunity to discuss issues of diversity, gender imbalances, and the hurdles that women face while working in technology. We've had some great discussions with leading female CIOs. I found Helena Nemo's perspective about how she adjusted as a working mum in the UK totally inspiring.
And Helena, you've worked in Finland and the UK. Have you seen differences between how women are treated in both these two countries?
Absolutely. I found it a real eye-opener when I came back to the UK, because in Finland, everybody works. There was nobody when I was growing up in my peer group, in my family. All of the women worked, so there was not a single stay-at-home mum. So it was very natural for everybody to be working and that work to be part of your contribution to be part of society. And then you come to the UK and you've got the whole school gate thing, which I found really, really odd. And it's something, obviously, as a full-time working mum, that was not something I ever participated in. So yes, it's very, very different how the gender and how females at the workplace are treated.
And how did you adapt to that?
Not very well, I have to admit. I didn't at all. I went through a period of self-doubt, as in, are my values that I have learnt from when growing up, are they valid? Or have I completely misunderstood the role of a woman in society? And I decided that I hadn't. So it did make for some very, very tough conversations. And I have to say that I was known at school being the mum who is never there. None of the coffee mornings or anything else. But I just stuck to my values and decided that was the right thing to do.
And that's a wrap for Season 1 of Tech Reimagined. Please join us in June for Season 2 with an all-new format, an exciting list of guests, and even more great topics. Until then, feel free to binge Season 1 everywhere that you listen to your podcasts.